Good afternoon and welcome to the November 8th, 2022 regular meeting of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Supervisor Chan. Chan, present. Supervisor Dorsey. Dorsey, present. Supervisor Mandelman. Mandelman, not present. Supervisor Marr. Marr, not present. Supervisor Melgar. Melgar, present. Supervisor Peskin. Peskin, not present. Supervisor Preston. Preston, present. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, present. Supervisor Safai. Safai, present. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, not present. President Walton.
Present.
Walton, present. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors acknowledges that we are in the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the indigenous stewards of this land and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. As guests, we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush Ohlone community and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. Colleagues, please stand with me to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I would like to acknowledge the staff at SF TV. Today we have Kalina Mendoza, who record each of our meetings and make the transcripts available to the public online. Madam Clerk, let's go to our 2 p.m. special order.
Thank you, Mr. President. The 2 o'clock special order is the appearance of the Honorable Mayor London N. Breed. We have one topic submitted from the District 1 Supervisor. The Mayor may address the Board for up to 5 minutes, and we do have her online.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk, and welcome to the meeting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, President Walton, and good afternoon, Supervisors. It's Election Day, and I know there's a lot of work to be done, so I'll be brief. I want to start by thanking Director John Arntz for running our elections department. So often in the city, we talk a lot about the problems we have, but this is an opportunity to recognize that our elections run pretty smoothly and with very little drama. That's a credit to everyone involved in this process, from the election staff who do the months of planning to get us here, to the volunteer poll workers who are out there today making sure people can vote and have a good experience. I know elections often heighten divisions. There are those of us who agree on different measures and candidates and those of us who disagree. But in San Francisco, unlike in some other parts of the country, we have faith in our elections and our process. When the polls close and the votes are counted, we honor the results. And that's because of our fundamental beliefs in democracy and the fact that our elections are well run. So whatever happens tonight, tomorrow we come back, we roll up our sleeves and we get to work. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to work well together regardless of the results, because the people of San Francisco are truly counting on us. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first topic?
The first topic is housing and services for the unhoused.
Thank you so much. And today's question will be coming from Supervisor Chan. Supervisor Chan, please ask your opening question.
Thank you, President Walton. Good afternoon, Mayor Breed. For some time now, our constituents have shared with frustration with City Hall, the abundance of corruption found, and the lack of city services delivered. I know our constituents have many questions and are eager for answers. So I reach out to our District 1 residents to let them know about this question time process today and find out what question they most wanted me to ask the mayor on their behalf. We received so many responses from across the Richmond with questions ranging from public safety to traffic safety and slow streets to housing. But the topic that received the most responses was about housing and services for the unhoused. Our neighbors Sheila, Martha, Glenda, Stephen, and Marty, and many more asked about homelessness. But we found that James's question represented the overall sentiment of our neighbors. So here is James' question, and I'm asking on his behalf. It is worrisome and disheartening to see citizens struggling with apparent mental instability on the streets of our beautiful city. Do you agree that mental health care is a resource that should be expanded? If so, what actions do you believe that we, a mayor, a city supervisor, a citizen, and a governor, should take to ensure that resources are targeted to those in need of mental health care? This is a question from our neighbor, James, living in the Richmond.
Thank you, Supervisor Chan, for the question and for reaching out to your constituents to get their feedback on the challenges facing our city. I truly wish it was as simple as providing the services and making some level of difference with the challenges that we experience, especially those who struggle with mental illness. And I know these are very complex issues. So my hope is that at least from this question time between you and your constituents, that this gives us an opportunity to work better together and focus on the issues more so that matter not just in your district, but that are problematic throughout the city, because we know this is pretty much the sentiment of most San Franciscans. Since June of 2020, when I launched the Homeless Recovery Plan, we created 5,300 new placements in our homeless response system across the city. This includes adding more permanent supportive housing than we did in the last 20 years. We've also reopened and created new shelter beds and increased placements for prevention and provided rental assistance. Further, we expanded our treatment network for people in crisis, opened up new programs with the capacity for almost 300 additional beds for people experiencing homelessness and behavioral health needs, and we are on track to expand the number of beds that we have. There are times when addressing street conditions require using the tools we have around enforcement to get people to accept help. It's not easy, and I wish we had stronger laws to force people into treatment or to get them help. It's why I will keep working with our state legislature to strengthen those laws. So my hope is that we can get some changes. We got conservatorship. It just hasn't been enough. Supervisor Mandelman will tell you, as a person who's been paying very close and advocating for changes to our conservatorship laws, he understands the challenges we continue to face to deal with it. We can't change local laws. We need help on the statewide level. And this office, and I'm hoping supervisors will join me in a push to make conservatorship laws stronger so that we can deal with the kinds of folks that we know your constituents want to see us help. So until then, the best we can do is make sure that the resources that we have available, and we're providing that support when someone agrees to accept help. Sadly, that could mean enforcement when necessary, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take some significant changes to our state laws. And I think that you and other members of the Board of Supervisors can be very helpful in our advocacy to do so.
Thank you so much, Mayor Breed. Supervisor Chan, you may now ask a follow-up question directly related to the opening question.
Thank you, Mayor Breed, for your answers. As you could tell, or let me, if I may say, that, from what I could tell from our constituents, that we have many concerns, at least in the Richmond, that we would love to invite you to join us in the Richmond to directly have dialogues with our constituents, and hopefully that you will consider having town hall, at least in the Richmond, and if possible, perhaps all across the city. I know that our constituents are eager to have a dialogue that just like you and I just had, and with you directly, and it would be definitely a plus, I think, for our constituents being able to spend some time with you. So I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to seeing you in the Richmond.
Mayor Breed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. Do you have a question for Supervisor Chan or any other supervisor in attendance pertaining to the same topic, but not necessarily related to the previous question?
Not at this time, President Walton. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Appreciate you for coming on today. Happy Election Day. Madam Clerk, this concludes our District 1 topic discussion. and also concludes our mayoral discussion. Do we have any communications?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Board of Supervisors welcomes the general public to listen to the proceedings here in the chamber and also remotely. To watch remotely, the meeting is airing live on SF.gov TV's award-winning Channel 26, or you may view the live stream at www.sfgovtv.org. If you participate remotely, the telephone number and meeting ID are published on the agenda and streaming on your screen. After entering the meeting information, press the pound symbol twice. Once connected, you will hear the meeting discussions, but you will be muted and in listening mode only. Once public comment is called, you will need to press *3 to add yourself to the speaker's queue. The system prompt will indicate you have raised your hand. Please wait for the system to indicate you have been unmuted, and that will be your cue to begin your comments. There are no 3 o'clock special orders today, so public comment will only be taken during general public comment, item 31. Content eligible for general public comment will be items 32 through 35, the items for consideration on the for adoption without committee reference calendar, and general matters that are not on today's agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. All other agenda content has been reported out by an appropriate committee where the public comment requirement was fulfilled. You may also submit your written correspondence by U.S. mail to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors at City Hall, 1 Dr. Carlton B. Goodlett Place, Room 244, San Francisco, California, 94102. Or you can send an email to bos@sfgov.org. In a great partnership with the Office of Civic Engagement and Immigrant Affairs in Lando and Associates, interpreters are present, but will need to sign off at 7 o'clock p.m. today. I will invite them to provide instructions in language when item 31 is called. Finally, if you experience any issues connecting to the meeting, we have a clerk standing by to assist you at 415-554-5184. Members, Mr. President, that concludes my communication.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, just a reminder to please mute your microphones when you are not speaking. Let's go to our consent agenda, items 2 through 12.
Items 2 through 12 are on consent. These items are considered routine. If a member objects, an item may be removed and considered separately.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Seeing no one on the roster, please call the roll.
On items 2 through 12, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Walton.
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Chan. Chan, aye. Supervisor Dorsey. Dorsey, aye. Supervisor Mandelman.
Aye.
Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Marr. Marr, aye. Supervisor Melgar. Melgar, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Preston.
Aye.
Preston, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Thank you. Without objection, these ordinances are finally passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call regular agenda unfinished business item number 13.
Item number 13 is an ordinance approving settlement of the lawsuit filed by the City and County of San Francisco against the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and Javier Becerra, Secretary of Health and Human Services, for approximately $204,000, and authorizing the Department of Public Health to enter into a sole source contract for an amount not to exceed $3 million. This lawsuit involves allegations that defendants violated the Administrative Procedure Act and the city's due process rights by deciding to terminate federal funding for Laguna Honda Hospital and Rehabilitation Center before residents could safely be transferred to other facilities and before the city's administrative appeal could be heard.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I don't see anyone on the roster, so we will take this item, same house, same call, and without objection, this ordinance is finally passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call new business items number 14 and 15 together.
Yes, item number 14 is a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of special tax bonds for City and County of San Francisco Community Facilities District number 2014-1 Trans-Bay Transit Center in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $90 million and approving related documents. And item 15 is an ordinance appropriating $90 million from the issuance of special tax bonds for the Trans-Bay Transit Center project and placing these on Controller's Reserve.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I don't see anyone on the roster, so we will take these items, same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted and the ordinance is passed on first reading unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 16.
Item number 16 is an ordinance amending the Business and Tax Regulations Code to permit the tax collector to enter into payment plans on or before April 30th, 2023 for the collection of delinquent Department of Public Health license fees collected on the uniform license bill that were due or payable before March 31st, 2023.
Thank you. I don't see anyone on the roster, so we will take this item, same house, same call. Without objection, this ordinance is passed on first reading unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 17.
Item number 17 is a resolution retroactively approving the agreement between the Department of Public Health, Community Behavioral Health Services, and the California Department of Health Care Services for the San Francisco Mental Health Plan in the amount of $0 for a 5-year term of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2027.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing no one on the roster, we will take this item, same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 18.
Item number 18 is a resolution approving Amendment 1 to a grant agreement between the Office of Economic and Workforce Development and Mid-Market Foundation for management of the Mid-Market Tenderloin Community-Based Safety Program to increase the grant amount for a total not to exceed amount of approximately $20 million and to extend the term for 3 months for the total period of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
Thank you. Seeing no one on the roster, we will take this item, same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call items 19 and 20 together.
Item number 19 is a resolution authorizing the Municipal Transportation Agency to execute an agreement with Intercare Holdings Insurance Services for workers' compensation third-party administrator services for an amount not to exceed approximately $34 million for a 3-year base term from November 1st, 2022 through October 31st, 2025, and 2 3-year options to extend. And item number 20 is a resolution authorizing the Department of Human Resources to execute an agreement with Intercare Holdings Insurance Services for workers' compensation third-party administrator services for an amount not to exceed approximately $29 million for a 3-year base term from November 1st, 2022 through October 31st, 2025, and 2 3-year options to extend.
Thank you. Seeing no one on the roster, we will take these items, same house, same call. Without objection, these resolutions are adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call items number 21 and 22 together.
Item 21 is a resolution approving an agreement with LAZ Parking California for the management of 7 parking garages and 2 lots operated by the Municipal Transportation Agency for an amount not to exceed $180 million in a term of 5 years with two 2-year options to extend. And item 22 is a resolution approving an agreement with IMCO Parking for the management of 11 parking garages and 1 lot operated by the Municipal Transportation Agency for an amount not to exceed $180 million in a term of 5 years with 2-year options to extend.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing no one on the roster, we will take these items, same house, same call. Without objection, these resolutions are adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 23.
Item number 23 is a resolution authorizing the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to expend SOMA Community Stabilization Fund dollars in the amount of approximately $513,000 to address various impacts of destabilization on residents and businesses in SOMA and extend the term for an additional 6 months for a total term of January 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
Thank you. Seeing no one on the roster, we will take this item, same house, same call, and without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you please call item number 24?
Item number 24 is a resolution approving and authorizing the Director of the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to execute a grant agreement with Mercy Housing California for a total grant amount not to exceed $11 million for a term of 55 years, effective upon execution of the grant agreement, to finance the construction of a community center, which will be known as Sunnydale Hope SF Community Building.
Thank you. Seeing no one on the roster, we will take this item, same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 25.
Yes. Item number 25 is a resolution retroactively authorizing the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to accept an in-kind gift of consulting services valued at $300,000 from Coro Northern California for a term of September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2024.
Thank you. Seeing no one on the roster, we will take this item, same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 26.
Item number 26 is an ordinance accepting irrevocable offers of public infrastructure and real property associated with the 5M project, declaring city property as open public right-of-way, dedicating the Phase 1 and Phase 2 public infrastructure to public use, designating said public infrastructure for street and roadway purposes, accepting the Phase 1 and Phase 2 public infrastructure for city maintenance and liability purposes, establishing official public right-of-way widths, and establishing public sidewalk widths.
Thank you. Seeing no one on the roster, we will take this item, same house, same call. Without objection, this ordinance is passed on first reading unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 27.
Item number 27 is an ordinance approving surveillance technology policies governing the use of body-worn cameras by the Recreation and Park Department, security cameras by the Department of Elections, and a third-party security camera by the airport.
Thank you. Seeing no one on the roster, we will take this item, same house, same call. Without objection, this ordinance is passed on first reading unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you please call item number 28?
Yes, item number 28 is a motion reappointing Supervisor Raphael Mandelman, term ending December 1st, 2023, to the California State Association of Counties.
Thank you. And colleagues, before we vote on this, can I have a motion to excuse Supervisor Mandelman from the vote, made by Supervisor Ronan, seconded by Supervisor Stephanie? Madam Clerk, on the motion to excuse.
On the motion to excuse, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Walton.
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Chan. Chan, aye. Supervisor Dorsey. Dorsey, aye. Supervisor Marr. Marr, aye. Supervisor Melgar. Melgar, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Preston. Preston, aye. There are 10 ayes.
Without objection, Supervisor Mandelman is excused from item number 28. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on item number 28.
On item 28, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Walton.
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Chan. Chan, aye. Supervisor Dorsey. Dorsey, aye. Supervisor Marr. Marr, aye. Supervisor Melgar. Melgar, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Preston.
Aye.
Preston, aye. There are 10 ayes.
Thank you. Without objection, this motion is approved unanimously. Welcome back, Supervisor Mandelman. Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions. We'll come back to 29.
All right. Roll call. First up on roll call for introductions is Supervisor Ronan. Thank you. Supervisor Safai.
I only have 7 items. I'm just kidding. Submit.
Thank you. Supervisor Stephanie.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I do have a brief in memoriam. Colleagues, today I will be asking to close today's meeting in memory of Elaine Marie Zakopoulos, who died on Sunday, November 6th. She was 82 years old. Elaine is the mother of our Lieutenant Governor and District 2 resident, Eleni Kounalakis. Born March 16, 1940, Elaine was a proud Greek American and a daughter of the greatest generation. She held deeply the values of persistence, kindness, and patriotism, and was sure to instill those values in her children. Elaine was a teacher, but as Lieutenant Governor Kounalakis shared, she was above all else a mother. She loved watching her family grow and cherished spending time with her grandchildren. In the days leading up to her passing, she was surrounded by the people who meant the most to her and whom she loved dearly. This included her devoted 4 children, grandchildren, her 4 great-grandchildren, as well as her nieces, nephews, and her cat, Toto. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I would like to extend my condolences to the Lieutenant Governor as she and her family mourn this great loss. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Stephanie. President Walton.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Submit.
Thank you. Supervisor Chan. Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Dorsey. Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Mandelman.
I will submit my legislation.
Thank you. Supervisor Marr. Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Melgar.
Submit. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Supervisor Peskin.
I will submit one piece of legislation.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Preston.
Submit.
Thank you. Mr. President, that concludes roll call for introductions.
Thank you. We will go on recess for 4 minutes.
Could have gone to
SF Gov TV, San Francisco Government Television.
All right, welcome back to our November 8th, 2022 regular meeting of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. We will now go to our 2:30 special order. Colleagues, today we have 3 special commendations from Supervisors Chan, Supervisor Stephanie, and Supervisor Peskin jointly, and from Supervisor Mandelman. But we will start with Supervisor Chan's very special commendation.
Colleagues, today we're honored to be joined by Congresswoman Jackie Speier. Congresswoman, we're honored to have you with us here today. Thank you so much. We want to commend you on this occasion, really of, regrettably to say, it's her retirement from Congress. Too soon, if I may say. Congresswoman Speier has served as an elected leader for the San Francisco Bay Area for nearly 40 years. That's including last 14 of which she has served the Bay Area in Congress. Congresswoman Speier has demonstrated throughout her career that she is not afraid to stand up to bullies for the people, especially the most vulnerable. She shows us that what is righteous is worth fighting for. And I would like to share with you, colleagues in the general public today, a video that demonstrates her bravery and her strength.
And I suggest to you, we need a society that's going to be sane. I'd ask for an aye vote.
It's a real quick question. Ms. Speier, do you think that an assault weapon is a machine gun?
Assault weapons are any number of guns, not just...
Do you think one squeeze of the trigger will send a burst of ammunition out the front?
There are some automatic rifles will provide a number of bullets in a very short period of time.
You're wrong. You're wrong, Mrs. Speier.
Have you been shot by an automatic rifle?
I've handled many automatic
Have you been shot by an automatic rifle?
Never have.
Well, I have. And I can show you a lot of scars.
You know, I had really planned to speak about something else, but the gentleman from New Jersey has just put my stomach in knots. Because I'm one of those women he spoke about just now. I had a procedure at 17 weeks, pregnant with a child that had moved from the vagina into the cervix. And that procedure that you just talked about was a procedure that I endured. I lost a baby. But for you to stand on this floor and to suggest, as you have, that somehow this is a procedure that is either welcomed or done cavalierly or done without any thought is preposterous.
Colleagues, today is election day. It is a reminder that we need to continue to elect leaders like Jackie Speier from local and to federal level. We need to continue to create the space so that more women like Jackie Speier can run for office. This is the best way, one of the best ways we can honor Congresswoman Speier's legacy. Thank you so much, Congresswoman Speier, for your tireless dedication and to the people. Thank you.
And Congresswoman Speier, if you would just indulge us, a few of us have a couple of words. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, President Walton. 22 years ago, I wandered into Assemblywoman Jackie Speier's office and explained to her I was running for supervisor in San Francisco. I had never met her before. I tried to convince her I was going to win, And for some reason, she endorsed my candidacy. I think she was the only member of the California State Assembly to do so. And I did prevail in that race, for which I am profoundly thankful to this day. Subsequently, we teamed up, me on the local level, and then Senator Spear on the state level, to combat the finance industry's invasion of individuals' financial privacy, which had been a cause célèbre for a number of sessions by Senator Spear, and we finally, at the local level and then at the state level, prevailed in that matter, and you are still my hero for that and many other things. In 20 years of being in and out of elected office, there have been a lot of folks that I didn't believe in to start with, that I stopped believing in along the way. But Jackie Spear, you are one of the people that actually gives me confidence in elected officials and electoral democracy, and it has really been an honor to watch you do your thing. Congratulations.
Supervisor Mandelman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Jackie Spear was a legend long before I got myself elected to the City College Board back in 2012, 10 years ago. But I got to see Jackie Spear in action when City College was threatened with the loss of its accreditation. And there was, it was a time when a lot of people were saying, oh, City College should just calm down, everything's going to be fine. And Congresswoman Spear correctly recognized that we needed to fight back and helped in that fight, and I think City College is alive and continuing to serve students in large part because of the work that Congresswoman Spear did then. And so it's one item on a long list of hundreds of things that she has done for the people of California, but it's one that I am particularly grateful for. So thank you, Congresswoman Spear.
Supervisor Milgard.
Thank you, President Walton. Congresswoman Spear, I am so grateful that you have represented my district, District 7, for all of these years. And you have done that with such just high intellect, grace, and service to the people. So when we were redistricted with the rest of San Francisco, I think the thing that I heard the most was how people were going to miss being represented by you because you have so much love. There's so much love in the community for you. And for me, as the first woman to represent that district, you have been such a just inspiration. Your fierceness and your just strategic acumen has been something that's been breathtaking to watch for all these years. And I'm so profoundly grateful to you. And I hope that you get rest and joy over the next year. Thank you.
Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Congresswoman Spear. When no one stood in my corner, you did. You've always been someone to me that's been a true role model. Bullets can't stop you. Words can't stop you. Nothing can stop you. And you've been someone that's been a guiding light for this community for so long, for working people. I remember the first conversation we had and the photo that we took, I was wearing a labor shirt, and you said, Asha, never forget working people. That's been something that's driven me every single day because that's the experience that I had growing up. And so I truly have taken that to heart, and I want you to know that I will continue that fight on your behalf in a very small way that I can. But thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for our community and the constituents and residents of San Francisco.
Supervisor Stephanie.
Thank you, President Walton. You know, growing up, my heroes never were celebrities or rock stars. They were always women politicians, and you have been one of them. And I will never forget the first time I actually got to meet you by myself in person. And it was in 2018, and I was running for supervisor, and I was seeking your endorsement. I think at that time you had your ankle was broken or something, and you had your leg up. And I went in with your staff, and I told you all about my platform and what I stood for. and you said to me, I really like you and what you stand for, and I want to endorse you. And for me, it was like the heavens opened up, that Congresswoman Spear said that to me. And I remember at the end of that meeting, I asked if I could hug you, and I think your staff was looking at me like, what is wrong with this girl? But it was just, my profound admiration I've had for you for so long. Your fight for women's rights, and especially, of course, on the gun violence issue. It's an issue that has meant so much to me for the last 30 years, and to know what you've endured, and that clip that Supervisor Chan showed us of you just putting it to that guy. I don't even know who he was, but we know who you are. And, you jockeyed that, it says you floor jockeyed the California assault rifle ban through the California Senate floor. And, that is so important when you look what's happening to our country today, the gun violence epidemic, and you have been constant in that fight. And I have to tell you, one of the highlights of my career and this year was when you and I walked across the Golden Gate Bridge in June for National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And it means so much to me that you've paved the way for women in politics. You are so resilient and just someone I will continue to admire forever and always, and I hope to follow your example of incredible leadership. Thank you so much for everything you've done for your district, for the city and county of San Francisco that you represent, and of course for this country. Thank you.
Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you. Congresswoman Spear, I never sought your endorsement or had met you. I just had always admired you from afar because you are a true fighter for the people, and you can't say that about that many politicians, unfortunately. And you've done it your whole career. But what makes you stand out in my mind more than anything is that you reached out to me, which I was just floored by. You were in San Francisco and you wanted to meet me. And I was like, wait, Congresswoman Spear wants to meet me? I'm just a brand new supervisor. And you sat down with me and you asked me what I was working on and what I cared about, and you gave me feedback, and it was just so unexpected and so beautiful, and it just showed the kind of person you are when the cameras aren't rolling, behind the scenes, something no one will ever know about. To just reach out to a young, brand new elected official in that way was extraordinary. Nobody's had done it before or since. And I just want to thank you so much for doing that. It really, really meant a lot to me. Congratulations, and thank you for everything.
Supervisor Dorsey.
Thank you, President Walton. Congresswoman Spear, it is an honor for me to have served with you for 4 years on the Democratic County Central Committee, and I know you weren't at the meetings, but I always had the opportunity to work with Brian, your proxy, and I always appreciated that when it was a priority that I cared about, like HIV and AIDS issues, you always were co-sponsor and always in our corner. And the other thing, I will never forget the years that I worked in this building, just down the hall in the city attorney's office from 2004, a 9-year legal battle for marriage equality. Not everybody, even in California, was with us. You were with us in that battle, and your championship for the LGBTQ+ community and for marriage equality is something that I will never forget. I'm deeply appreciated for everything that you have done for our city and our state and our country and our party. So it is an honor to have served with you. Congratulations on your retirement.
Supervisor Preston.
Thank you, President Walton. I will not repeat what my colleagues have said. I will second what everyone has said. But I do want to add just maybe the reality check of the time in which you serve in an institution that so many people in that institution have collectively lost their minds completely, and yet those of you who have been carrying the torch for decency in our government have had to press forward with composure and fight the fights that you've been fighting for so long in what seems to be a more and more difficult environment. So I want to thank you for doing really the thankless work of serving in Congress for so long, and especially doing so at a time when voices like yours are so absolutely essential. So thank you for your service, and Madam Clerk, please add me as a co-sponsor to this resolution. Thank you.
And Congresswoman Spear, I'll just add to the chorus. One, I'm truly humbled that you came here in person today for us to say thank you so much for your service. I appreciate your fight for gun control. I appreciate your fight for women's rights. I appreciate your resources and dollars for Caltrain, which is near and dear to my heart. But I really appreciate you for enduring, fighting through tragedy, and coming back and serving for this entire country. I thank you so much for your service, and you're going to be missed in your role, but I have a feeling that somehow you'll be continuing to fight for all of us here in not only San Francisco, but quite frankly, across the world. Thank you so much for your service, and we would love for you to say some words.
Thank you, Mr. President, and to all of my friends and colleagues on the Board of Supervisors. I have loved representing San Francisco in all of my iterations for 33 years. It has been a relationship that I have treasured. Many of you may or may not know that I was born in San Francisco. I was born in Mary's Help Hospital and raised for a short period of time in the Sunset, then came back to live in the city when I was going to Hastings Law School. Now we call it San Francisco Law School of the University of California, I guess. And it has always been where my heart is. So to be here today, to have you recognize me is really a great privilege. And Supervisor Chan, a special thanks to you for initiating the resolution. Let me just say that I may be leaving Congress, but I'm not retiring. I'm coming home. I'm coming home to re-engage with the communities that I love. And as I think about what I'm going to do in the future, it has really struck me that we live in one of the richest counties in the country. And yet we suffer with such great need. I'm starting first focusing on San Mateo County, where 20 billionaires live, and 5,000 people who make over $1 million a year. And yet, 33% of the children in school are on free school lunches, and 2,000 are living in unstable housing or are homeless. So I hope that when I return, that we'll have an opportunity to work together and do a deep dive here in San Francisco about what the desperate needs are and how we can best address them. The privilege we all have to serve is truly profound. And I think when you're at the end of that particular path, you realize even more strongly the power that you hold, that maybe you just took for granted at different points in your career, that you didn't use it as effectively as you could have on behalf of your constituents. So I urge you to don't dismiss the power that you have. Use it to bring goodness to all of the residents here in San Francisco. I have absolutely been privileged to serve you and the people of San Francisco. I will never forget the fact that you have repeatedly given me the opportunity to serve. And I look forward to being in the private sector, so to speak, in the non-elected sector, to work with you in the future. I'm just going to end with a favorite quotation of mine. Every time we turn our heads the other way, when we see the law being flouted, when we tolerate what we know is wrong, when we close our eyes and our ears to the corrupt because we are too busy or because we are too frightened, when we fail to speak up or speak out, we strike a blow against freedom and decency and justice. That was a quotation from Robert F. Kennedy. We really have an obligation to speak up and speak out on behalf of all of the residents in San Francisco for decency and justice, and I thank you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Spear, and thank you so much, Supervisor Chan, for making sure that we honored her for her amazing service for all these years. And now I'm going to call on Supervisor Stephanie and Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, President Walton. Oops, my voted sticker. Colleagues, this is a belated commendation celebrating two incredible Italian Americans in honor of Italian Heritage Month, which was last month in October. And I want to thank President Walton for accommodating the honorees' schedules so that we can properly recognize their contributions to the Italian community and the city and county of San Francisco as a whole. So today, Supervisor Peskin and I are honoring the two Grand Marshals of the 154th Italian Heritage Parade, which is the longest running parade in the United States, Randy DiMartini and Larry Mazzola Jr. I'll be speaking to Randy, and Aaron said he wanted to speak to Larry. So Larry, I apologize in advance because he insisted. So we'll see what happens. And I also want to say a happy early birthday to Larry. We found out that we were born in San Francisco one day apart. He was born at St. Mary's, and I was born at St. Luke's. So when we found that out, it even strengthened our Italian bond. So happy early birthday, Larry. Yes, we know. In 2019, this body actually established October as Italian Heritage Month in San Francisco, and for good reason. October is very important to the Italian American community. It is when we have the Italian American Heritage Parade, and Italian organizations across the city host month-long celebrations in recognition of what Italian Americans have brought to the city and county of San Francisco. Also, San Francisco is named for St. Francis of Assisi, an Italian Catholic friar whose compassion for service to all living beings led him to act as a champion for those in extreme poverty and for the protection of the world's natural spaces and environment, which I think is very fitting for Italian Heritage Month. The first Italian immigrants arrived and settled in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 1840s, around the time of California's official statehood and the incorporation of San Francisco. The city owes a great deal of gratitude to the Italian immigrants and Italian American individuals, families, and communities who have made many incredible contributions to our city's culture, landscape, history, and prosperity. Italian Americans' contribution to San Francisco spans a broad array of our most iconic city institutions, including our banks, APG&E, which was Bank of Italy, which is now Bank of America, the fishing industry, the performing arts and literature. You know, I can go on and on and on about Italians, and I'm almost finished with this part. Italian Americans have been a part of every major civic institution and artistic movement in San Francisco since the city's founding. And perhaps some of the greatest contributions of Italian Americans have made in San Francisco are in public service. We know 3 Italian American mayors have led San Francisco through momentous times. Mayor Angelo Rossi, the first mayor of 100% Italian descent to lead a major U.S. city, and he presided over the building of the Golden Gate and Bay Bridges. Mayor Joseph Alioto, of course, steered the city through the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s and 1970s, and through major capital projects such as BART, the Embarcadero Center, and the Transamerica Pyramid. Mayor George Moscone also fought to keep the San Francisco Giants in the city and left a legacy of promoting tolerance and acceptance of individuals from all walks of life. Of course, we have Speaker Nancy Pelosi, one of the first women speaker of the House of Representatives. And so in honor of Italian Heritage Month, I am thrilled that we get to honor 2 Italians who have also served their community so well and so honorably. So it is my great honor to commend first Randy DiMartini for his service as one of the Grand Marshals of the 154th Italian Heritage Parade, again, the longest running parade in our nation, and for all his other amazing contributions to our city. Randy served in distinction as the Grand Marshal for this iconic historical and cultural event that celebrates the contributions of Italian Americans in San Francisco. Randy is well known for his personal commitment to celebrating his Italian American heritage and supporting the thriving community of North Beach, which he describes as the greatest district in the world. Randy was raised in North Beach and attended St. Peter and Paul Grammar School and Sacred Heart Cathedral, go Fighting Irish. He is the youngest son of George and Marie DiMartini, who had 4 boys, which this I love, Ronnie, Ricky, Robbie, and Randy. And during his formative years, Randy spent a great deal of time after school in the summers at the Salesian Boys Club. It was not yet a boys and girls club. The club was Randy's second home, where he learned to play sports, did theater productions, and went to sleepaway camp on ski trips. For Randy, the club was the place to be, and turns out for Randy, it still is. Although Randy's dream out of high school was to study acting and to perform on Broadway, and he doesn't mean Elvis, he is really Elvis. He felt that his very own community held a deeper calling for him. Randy's mentor and then executive director of the Boys and Girls Club, Fred Scolari, and his then assistant, Russ Gamina, recognized Randy's potential as a gifted youth leader. It was at this time that Randy was offered a position at the club and charted his course as a revered community role model. He now serves as the Salesian Boys and Girls Club's 4th executive director, and for 43 years, Randy has served the North Beach community and children of San Francisco. North Beach would not be the same without Randy DiMartini, and if you don't know him personally, someone you know certainly does. He is truly so beloved in our Italian community. He does it all, truly, from painting the poles in North Beach in the Italian flag colors, green, white, and red, acting as a referee in CYO basketball games, taking care of and mentoring our youth at the Salesian Boys and Girls Club in North Beach. He is a shining star and someone I feel lucky to know. And finally, every Italian has a cousin who is not really their cousin, but says they're cousins. And we recently found out that through talking that Randy is somewhat related to my husband through marriage, so we truly are cousins. So I love that. On behalf of my colleagues on the board, it is my great pleasure to present with you the Certificate of Honor and to thank you for your commitment to the Italian community of San Francisco and to San Francisco as a whole. Randy, if you would like to say a few words.
Well, first of all, thank you, Supervisor Stephanie and Supervisor Peskin, for this acknowledgement. And I want to thank all of you. This is a great day for me and for the Salesian Boys and Girls Club. We have celebrated our 100th anniversary this year after the pandemic. We finally got to have our big celebration. So it's a great honor to have this celebration coincide with this great honor of today. And I just want to say that working with children all my life is probably the greatest reward. And I love every kid on the planet. It doesn't make a difference where you come from, what your background is. Matter of fact, you mentioned Mayor Joe Aliotto. He originally came from our Salesian Boys Club way back in the 1920s and 30s before he became the mayor of San Francisco. Nancy Pelosi, of course, her granddaughter was one of our, little Bella was one of our members just a few years back as well. So the Boys and Girls Club goes a long way back with our Italian heritage and all these kids and so many great, wonderful people in the world. So I just want to say thank you once again in this great honor, and especially to Supervisor Stephanie and Supervisor Peskin for always looking out for me. And I'll leave this with you. I'm going to try and do this. I don't know if we can do this next year, but when I was speaking with someone after this year's Italian Heritage Day parade, the person who makes the floats had come up to me and said, "How come this parade is not televised? Because all the other ones are televised." So I reached out to a dear friend of mine who is in television and mentioned it to him, and I don't know if I can do this, but we're going to try to get the parade televised next year for the Italian Heritage Parade of 2020. So again, thank you for this great honor, and I am enjoyed to celebrate it with my good friend Larry Mazzolo Jr. as well. I think we made a good team this year at the Italian Heritage Parade. So thank you all very, very much. Much appreciative.
Colleague Supervisor Stephanie, I insisted on acknowledging and honoring Mr. Mazzola because for the better part of 20 years, he and I fought like cats and dogs, but we both mellowed a little bit with age and kind of came around to each other's way of seeing the world. So here now, 20 years later, the guy is actually a friend of mine. In these chambers over the last couple of months, we've celebrated a lot of incredible different cultural contributions from various communities. And today it's my honor, and appropriately so, to give some love and recognition to the constituents and community who have made Italian Heritage Month synonymous with what I think is the greatest neighborhood in San Francisco, North Beach, which has, as you heard, hosted the longest running Italian Heritage Parade in the entire country. This year was 154, and if you were not there, Supervisor Stephanie was there, it was packed. I mean, I've never seen, they're always well attended, but this thing was off the charts. And you really can't think of San Francisco without thinking about the many treasures and nightlife of North Beach, and you can't think about North Beach without thinking about these two, DiMartini and Mazzola, who are with us in the chamber today. Larry Mazzola Jr. lent his name to this year's parade as one of its grand marshals, and while you may know Randy for his considerable work with youth in the community and his totally spot-on Elvis impersonations, Larry is a reminder of the significant contributions that Italians have made to organized labor, not only in San Francisco, but in this country. Many new immigrants from the Mediterranean in the 1850s and 1860s worked on the docks of San Francisco under remarkably oppressive conditions, and were frankly at the heart of some of the more radical origins of organized labor, fighting for better working conditions against discriminatory treatment by corporate profiteers. I've known Larry for many years, and since we started getting along, have had the opportunity to work together successfully on things like the Project Labor Agreement that we successfully concluded with Supervisor Safai's help, and have ushered in his becoming a member of the Recreation and Parks Commission and his reappointment there too. And just remember, Larry, it's Phil who won't let you put your Ferraris on Washington Square Park, but you can deal with that. And by the way, even though I know there's a disagreement between the Building Trades Council, of which Larry is the head, and the supermajority of this board as it relates to splitting the Department of Public Works, not only do I know that Larry in his heart knows that 8 of us are on the right side of that position, but I wanted to give him this award anyway. All of this is to say that I feel like an honorary Italian in the long working relationship that we've had together, and it's an honor to recognize Larry Mazzola for everything that you do for San Francisco. The floor is yours, Larry.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Peskin and Supervisor Stephanie, for this acknowledgement. I accept this acknowledgement on behalf of my family and all of my union members in UA Local 38. Like Aaron says, 20 years ago, I wouldn't cross the street to spit on his hair if it was on fire. But today, it's a much different relationship, and I appreciate the relationship we have, Aaron. We've come a long way, and it's better for the building trades, it's better for the city that we get along. And we have a lot of mutual respect, as I do for the rest of the board. Catherine, I've been friends with for a long time, and I appreciate everything that you have done for labor and the building trades. We have a long-standing history here, as you guys know. My grandfather, Joe Mazzola, my dad, Larry Mazzola Sr., they were the ones that started this for Local 38, and I'm here because of them, and I'm proud to be a San Franciscan, lifelong San Franciscan. My grandmother was born in North Beach, lived right around the corner from Gino and Carlos. She ended up living in San Francisco until she was 105. And this city and my Italian heritage mean more to me than anything, and I'm proud of both of those things. I'm proud to be in a position where I can help union members and non-union members alike and lift people up in apprenticeship programs. And the whole thing is just makes me proud to be a part of this city. And to get this award today, like I said, I accept it on behalf of everybody that I mentioned, my family and the members of Local 38. There's a lot of Italians that came over that weren't treated fairly when they got here. Things have changed, and for the betterment. And I just am proud to be here, proud to be a San Franciscan, and I want to thank you both for this acknowledgement. It means a lot, and thank you. Actually, can I say one more thing? I forgot. Aaron Peskin is in North Beach. I know he lives there way more than me, and I'm Italian. So you need an Italian name. So I think we should call you from now on Aaron Peschini. Is that what you like? All right, Aaron Peschini, that's what I'm calling you.
Congratulations again, Randy and Larry. And if this wasn't such a busy day, we would all have some great things to say about both of you. But congratulations.
Glad this was on the agenda.
Thank you, Supervisor Stephanie and Supervisor Peschini. Supervisor Mandelman.
Thank you, President Walton. I want to invite Howard Mutz to come up to the podium. I'm going to say some nice things about you. One of the coolest parts about this job is learning about all of the San Franciscans who outside of the limelight, never going to be in the paper, but every day do things that make their neighborhoods better, that make San Francisco better. And Howard Mutz is one of those people. He lives in the Duboce Triangle neighborhood. He was born in Los Angeles in 1950. He grew up in LA and Orange County along with 6 siblings and moved to San Francisco in 1972. And he's lived in Duboce Triangle since 1975. Howard is a veteran of the hotel industry with over 40 years under his belt at the St. Francis and Palace hotels, and he is still the hotel historian for both properties where he continues to work part-time. He is highly regarded in the fields of San Francisco hotel history and convention management. Howard's attention to detail and sense of responsibility for his surroundings extends well beyond the hotels he works at to the Duboce Triangle and Castro neighborhoods where he walks every day with his faithful Doberman, Evie. Unlike many of us who enjoy a stroll through the neighborhood, Howard goes the extra mile by picking up trash along his walks every single day, several times a day. He is also a longtime member of the Duboce Triangle Neighborhood Association and is an inspiration to many neighbors, some of whom I think have showed up here today. When my office reached out to the DuBose Triangle Neighborhood Association for stories about Howard, we learned that not only does he pick up trash, he's taken it upon himself to repaint the decorative trim on the 30-something concrete bollards that serve as seating for the neighborhood's bulb-out mini parks every single year. Howard is a good neighbor. He's an amazing neighbor, beloved by his neighbors, and it is my honor to extend this commendation as a thank you from the neighborhood and from the city.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Mandelman. I appreciate those kind words. But I'm kind of proud of what I do, and I feel confident that I've inspired others. Because as I walk, I have other people come up to me and say, I have grabbers now too, I've been watching you. And so I would love for this to catch on so that people will keep the city the way we all want it to be. And I think that being a good neighbor is important and taking care of people. On my walks, I also pick up packages. If Amazon leaves them and I know the people aren't there, I'll hold on to them until they come back and I can give them to them because of all the package bandits. So I want to thank you very much for the acknowledgement. It means a lot to me. I have family and friends here. And I just want to say thank you to all. It's been very interesting and inspiring to watch your work today. And to be here for Jackie Spear meant a lot to me. So thank you very much.
Another photo op in the middle of the meeting. You're working hard, Jackie, for a photo op. Congratulations again, Howard, and thank you so much, Supervisor Mandelman. And I also want to say congratulations to all of our honorees this afternoon, and thank you to Supervisor Chan, Supervisor Stephanie, Supervisor Peskin, and Supervisor Mandelman for acknowledging everyone today. And that concludes our 2:30 p.m. special order of business. Madam Clerk, let's call item number 29.
Yes, item number 29 was considered by the Government Audit and Oversight Committee at a regular meeting on Thursday, November 3rd, 2022 at 10:00 a.m. This matter was recommended to the full board as a committee report. It is a resolution urging the Mayor's Office and Department of Public Health to ensure no gap in services for the hundreds of people served daily by the Tenderloin Center.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Supervisor Preston.
Thank you, President Walton. And we discussed this item extensively in committee. This resolution urges the Mayor's Office and Department of Public Health to ensure that replacement services are available for the hundreds of visitors that use the Tenderloin Center daily. And this center is scheduled to close in December. I wanted to quickly add some context here. Most of you are familiar with the center. As you may know, the Department of Public Health recently issued an overdose prevention plan that calls for the creation of multiple wellness hubs, as the mayor's referring to them and DPH is referring to them. And they're basically smaller sites in multiple neighborhoods throughout the city that provide many of the same resources that the Tenderloin Center, previously known as the Tenderloin Linkage Center, or the Linkage Center currently provides. The mayor has backed that approach of these smaller sites, these wellness hubs at multiple locations. DPH supports that, and my office supports that as well. I think it's an area of agreement, and it's important we move forward on that. Based on the public statements from the mayor and DPH, there will be a wellness hub in the Tenderloin Civic Center area soon, but a date and location have not yet been announced. I remain very concerned that closure of the Tenderloin Center with no plan to replace the services promptly will place people at risk of fatal overdoses. and exacerbate a lot of the street conditions in the Tenderloin and Civic Center area. I have for months been urging the administration to partner with our office and the community to open the new Wellness Hub site in time for the center's closure. And to date, that hasn't happened. It doesn't mean it is necessarily too late, and I want to underscore we moved quick to set up center in the first place, and we should be moving quickly now to set up its replacement. So our resolution first and foremost urges that the promised Wellness Hub be open promptly to ensure that a replacement is operational before the center closes. And if that takes more than, now we're down to less than a month, if it takes more than that time, then in the alternative, the resolution urges that the center stay open, hopefully briefly, until the Wellness Hub is opened. I think fundamentally, the principle here is that there must be no gap in services. I want to thank the over 50 organizations that reached out with a letter led by Safer Inside Coalition backing that position. And we understand that the current location for the Tenderloin Center was always meant to be temporary, and I don't think we're questioning that in this resolution. We have not criticized the decision to wind it down and to replace it with multiple smaller permanent locations, but we can't in good conscience simply shutter the Tenderloin Center, leaving 400 people per day without the help that they need for an indeterminate amount of time. That's not a plan for anything but increased suffering and death on our streets. Over 112,000 visitors have been served by the Tenderloin Center to date in less than a year. As of today, the center's reversed 285 overdoses, many of which would have been fatal. The center's also provided meals, showers, counseling, and referrals to treatment, shelter, and housing. Allowing the current situation, which would close the Tenderloin Center with no replacement of services and no alternative wellness hub to serve people currently using the center, would be, in my opinion, reckless, irresponsible, and cruel. And I hope that you will join me in supporting this resolution today. And I really want to thank my co-sponsors, Supervisors Ronan, Chan, Peskin, and President Walton for their co-sponsorship and urge others to support as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Preston. Supervisor Mandelman.
Thank you, President Walton, and I voted against this item in committee. I feel that there was certainly value in the establishment of the Linkage Center, and I think we learned some valuable things from the Linkage Center. I think we had been talking for a very long time about having safer consumption sites, and we sort of provided one, not 24/7, but for a significant period of time, and certainly we learned that many people would use it and that we could reverse the number of overdoses, and I think those are lessons that we can put to use going forward. But it has also been an extraordinarily expensive intervention at a cost of $20 million a year. If we annualize it out, there's no evidence that I see that it has reduced overdose deaths in San Francisco or in the area where it has been located, and the impacts on the surrounding community have been significant. I believe that certainly we need to be distributing services around the city, and concentrating them in one particular neighborhood is a mistake, but even distributing these services, if we do not come up with a better way of managing the impacts of those services on the sidewalks and surrounding areas, is untenable. I have many things that I want from the Department of Public Health. I want places for people to be taken now, immediately, when they are in crisis. I want longer-term placements for people who need to be in longer-term placements. I want step-down facilities for people who have been through drug treatment and need a place to go. And of all the things that I want the Department of Public Health to be focusing its energies on, keeping this facility open for an indeterminate time is low on my list of priorities, and in fact, I think the decision to wind it down is the correct one.
Thank you, Supervisor Mandelman. Supervisor Dorsey.
Thank you, President Walton, and I want to express my gratitude to everybody for working on this, and I think that there are principles on which we agree that services should be continued, although I think there is a disagreement that I have with this about keeping the Tenderloin Center open when we've made a commitment to the public that this was going to be temporary. I have always felt about public policy that it is best reflected by what FDR said at the beginning of the New Deal, that it is common sense to take a method and try it, and if it fails, admit it frankly, and try another. There are good lessons that we learned from the Tenderloin Center, and I think those can be employed in other ways, and I'm encouraged by the presentation that I had and that we had on the overdose prevention plan. I think we have to be mindful when we talk about harm reduction that principles of harm reduction apply to the quality of individual and community life. And what I am hearing from the community is that this is not a continuation of something that they're going to support. And I think we're going to need community support in the future for the ambitious things that we need to do better as a city to reduce drug overdose deaths in this city, to reduce the impact of open-air drug scenes and brazen drug dealing. These are issues that are personally important to me in ways that nothing has ever been important to me in public life or policy. I want to make sure that we have the support of San Franciscans in these endeavors, and my fear is that if we were to break our commitment, that this was going to be something that we were going to close, that we're going to be continuing to lose the confidence of the San Franciscans we serve. So for that reason, I'll be opposing this resolution.
Thank you, Supervisor Dorsey. Supervisor Preston.
Thank you, President Walton. I just wanted to say on this, in terms of community impacts, that if people have concerns about the current situation on UM Plaza, and I share those concerns, and I have expressed and will continue to express my concerns with the lack of attention to that area as part of operating this center there. But I think if people have concerns about that area now, I want you to think about and go out there with me on December 5th when 400 people who are getting services there show up on December 5th, and there is no plan. I mean, we went through this in detail in committee. There is no plan for replacement of those services, no consultation with area nonprofits to make sure they can absorb the capacity and the needs of services. It is, I think we can all have different views of the successes or failures of the center, but I think it is absolutely reckless to shut it down and unnecessary to shut it down with no plan in place. And I think none of us wants it continued. What we want is a replacement site that has been promised. But until that promise is fulfilled, we certainly can't leave 400 people with nowhere to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Preston. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, President Walton. Colleagues, I would submit to you that the thrust of Supervisor Preston's resolution that I am a proud co-sponsor of is set forth in the title, which is No Gap in Services. There is a further resolve that says if there is a gap, then we should look at keeping this open longer, which rather than opposing it, I might offer amendments to that section. But a year ago, right around the winter holidays, the mayor stood up and said, we have an emergency, which, by the way, was already an emergency. We just recognized that it was an emergency, which was important, I think. And what that emergency and the city's response showed us was that we could stand up a facility. And here we are a year later, the Army has retreated, DEM is out, DPH is in, but that same sense of emergency urgency all of a sudden seems to be gone. But the crisis isn't gone. So I think this is really an admonition to this body, to the executive branch, that we have an obligation not to retreat, not to abandon, but to have no gap in services. And doing less than that, I think, is an abdication of the fact that this Board of Supervisors ratified the emergency.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Supervisor Ronan?
Yeah, I just want to chime in with a couple points. Number one, with the creation of this center, with the takedown of this center, what's continuously frustrating for me is this administration's schizophrenia when it comes to dealing with mental health and the drug addiction crisis. No pun intended. We passed at the end of 2019, after a year of debate, compromise, battle, mental health SF that was unanimously supported by the board at that time. Not everyone was on the board at that time, and by the mayor. It is a sweeping overhaul of our mental health services, and it's creating a system out of a disjointed number of services that exist around the city that we spend hundreds of millions of dollars on every single year that do not work together in a comprehensive way to serve people suffering on our streets. And ever since it's passed, granted, we had a worldwide pandemic that delayed its implementation, it has been one sexy press release after another with some new idea, title, take, claim, blueprints, whatever, in direction that we're going to take, instead of just keeping the eye on the ball and doing the long-term, focused, hard work of implementing the system that was unanimously passed. It is endlessly frustrating to me. I talked to Director Dr. Hillary Cunnins weekly about it, and it drives me crazy. The reason I supported the Tenderloin emergency was not because it was a brand new emergency that we didn't know about, but because it allowed us to quickly hire 200 people. I said it then, I'll say it now. That is why I supported it. But I thought the creation of it and now the takedown of it is sloppy at best and reflects the fact that we don't have the discipline in this city to have a strategy, keep our eye on the ball, and build that strategy for the long term. And it's why we don't succeed. I'm convinced of it. That's number one. Number two, all of the emails we've received over the past few days close the Tenderloin Center because, nice try, but the conditions were worse outside of the center than they were prior to its opening. That is a problem. That is a real problem around every single service that we offer in my district. So we have 1515 South Van Ness, a safe sleep site. We have the Division Circle Navigation Center. I'm now trying to open up a safe cabin site at 1979 Mission. And it's my office and my constituents that are constantly begging the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing to make sure that the conditions around those centers are clean, safe, flawless, encampment-free, graffiti-free, trash-free, because we cannot ask our constituents to accept these services in our neighborhoods if the area surrounding them becomes worse than it was before they were placed there. We cannot ask that of our constituent. It is not fair. It is not, it doesn't make sense. And I beg Shireen McSpadden and Emily Cohen and Dylan Schneider every single week to clean up the areas around 1515th and South Van Ness, or I'm going to start the petition to take them down, because I can't fight to open yet another service center for homeless folks in the Mission when this city cannot maintain in a clean and orderly fashion the homeless services that we open up. And it's yet to happen. So we have a problem in the city with focused attention to implementing a single strategy that we all agree on should be the strategy. And then number two, when we open those services, keeping them in a way that anyone would welcome them into their neighborhood, because things get better, not worse, when they come in.
Thank you, Supervisor Ronan. Supervisor Safai?
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Ronan. I have to tell you, I've been on this board for 6 years. I don't think there was a day that I was more frustrated than the day that we were called into an emergency session. And we literally sat here, sat in front of our computers. It started here and then it transitioned until Christmas Eve. We were here until Christmas Eve, listening and talking about this. I had reservations then. I was not convinced that there would be follow-through then. I didn't like the location then. I did not hear a plan then. As Supervisor Peskin said, this has been an emergency in the city for years. So to put something together at the last second and call it an emergency and then not have a plan for follow-through, it started out, all of a sudden, it was Department of Emergency Management. We were having an emergency. Then it quickly morphed into the Department of Public Health. And it was an unofficial overdose prevention site, safe consumption site. Let's call it what it was. I went there myself. I was flabbergasted. I said, if I walk in here and I want to be clean, if I want to be recovering, if I'm a recoverer or trying to recover, and I'm surrounded by people openly using drugs in front of me, I can't speak from the same passion and perspective as Supervisor Dorsey, but I can imagine the first thing I said, this has to be triggering. This has to be a problem. So, I mean, this morphed into a Department of Public Health site without metrics, without data, without accountability. We asked for those things. It was a linkage to nowhere. I'm sorry. What were we linking to? I don't know. So I did not like the plan from the beginning. I tried to defer to the administration. Like Supervisor Ronan, we had two objectives that came out of the plan. We wanted the Minna Street project. We got that accomplished. We cut the ribbon on that. We wanted emergency services programming and treatment at General Hospital funded. We got that funded. But I had no faith that there would be any follow-through on this plan. I think the surrounding businesses were caught by surprise. I think the theater, I think all of the ground floor. This is the gateway, one of the gateways to our civic government. And I'm sorry, it is an embarrassment. It is not the right location. I normally, Supervisor Preston and I had a good conversation, I normally will defer to the supervisor of the district. I feel ambivalent about this. I don't want the rug pulled out. I want services continued. We bought a site. We went through a whole process. We supported the administration. We have a location on, I think it's Geary, up in the
822.
Right? But it's been sitting there. When's that going to open? I went to the site. I went to the site on Howard over in Soma. That's a nice wellness drop-in. But where's the formal plan? It doesn't make sense to me. So I feel ambivalent about this. I understand the desire and the need to want to continue services, and I'm for that. But at the same time, I am not for continuing this at this location. I don't feel like we're getting what was sold or presented to the public, and I don't feel like there's a real plan to continue it, although there are some good providers at the site. So I still feel ambivalent about it as we talk about this, but I have to tell you, general frustration, like Supervisor Ronan, we have this dramatic need. We have mental health SF. Where's the follow-through on that? We've been talking about that for years. That's where we should be putting a lot of our energy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Supervisor Safai. Supervisor Ronan?
Sorry, I just wanted to add, since you brought up the Geary Street, that is going to be the Crisis Diversion Center that we needed, how long ago, Supervisor Mandelman? 10 years ago. It is not going to be open for a year and a half at best. And I have a weekly phone call that I had to demand that I have with the DPW person who's not the project manager, because there is no project manager assigned to that site, to figure out how I can fast track any piece of it or put any pressure on it to open it up faster, because without a crisis diversion center, which is not the mental health SF service center that the law requires they create, but it's at least the next best thing, is not going to open for a year and a half at best. That's what's happening with that site. It's insane, you guys. It's insane.
Thank you, Supervisor Ronan. Supervisor Melgar?
Thank you, President Walton. I am a believer in supporting the supervisor, where the district, the district supervisor in whatever they want to do in their district. For this one, I'm also torn. I'm ambivalent about it for a couple reasons. One is, when we were all here on Christmas Eve, talking about this, I did meet with a bunch of the constituents there in the Tenderloin. And this linkage center was actually one of their demands. It was their idea to have a place where people could go take a shower and do all of that. I met with the same people, this past week, and it has not worked out in the way that they had intended. And that really does give me pause. On the other hand, I want to live in a city where we can have innovation, where if there's an emergency or nascent needs, our departments can be nimble and stand up services and programs in short order, and also assess them to see if they work. And if they don't work, to be able to just scrap it and do something else that does, and to be disciplined, as Supervisor Ronan talked about, in terms of looking at the data, seeing if the outcomes, not just outputs, it's not just 400 people being served. It's like, how did we serve them? Did the services that we provide have the intended outcome? And so I want to see that. And I'm frustrated in my own district because Supervisor Marr and I have been working on trying to stabilize a whole population, a community that lives in their vehicles. And we have been really unable to get the department to pivot from the model that deals with homelessness for people living in tents on the sidewalk, which is very different as a population than the people living in their vehicles. And again, I want to be able to live in a city where our city government can pivot, to deal with different needs, different models in different neighborhoods. And what I fear is that if we don't give the department the ability to say, okay, we tried this, it didn't work, that they will then, just get stuck even more than where they are now, and, have the inability to pivot and to meet needs in different geographic areas with different populations, and to provide different services, when they're no longer needed, or if we know that their best practices yield better results, and to be able to redirect. And so I am not sure about this. I have gotten, like we all have, lots of, correspondence from folks saying, different things. But I, even though I hear you, Supervisor Peskin, what this resolution says is continuity of services, and I would like to see continuity of services. I'm not sure I can live with, if we don't have that, then we should keep this open, because that part I'm not so sure about. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Melgar. And just real quick, Supervisor Preston, I do recall being one of the no votes for the declaration of the emergency, and not so much because of the setup of the linkage center, but to Supervisor Peskin's point, we were definitely in a crisis, an emergency, and we needed to get the work done regardless. And I agree with Supervisor Melgar. There needs to be something in place where we can move faster and be more nimble. But even though I did not support the declaration, my biggest concern is a gap in services and what happens the very next day. I'm not comfortable with shutting something down and all the services go away and we don't have a plan in place to address that. And I think it's very reasonable to ask for something to be in place. Supervisor Preston?
Thank you, President Walton. I share a lot of the frustrations that have been expressed around the lack of follow through on some of these initiatives. I think, frankly, the way we communicate that frustration and try to get the follow through is through a resolution of this type. And so I hope folks will support it. I did want to just note, though, that we made a very significant and I think positive step forward. You know, through the redistricting, Tenderloin became part of my district about 6 months ago. We worked closely for months with the Department of Public Health around creating, the city did not have an overdose prevention plan, and we worked together. And I want to say, in terms of having a strategy and in terms of actually moving forward in a collaborative way, I want to give huge props and credit to DPH, Dr. Cunnins and her team for working with our office on that and working with the mayor on that and coming to a point of agreement. So I think part of what's frustrating here is that's like within the last couple months, where instead of this scattershot approach, like we were starting to make some progress. And that plan, and I really urge folks to read it because it's detailed, it's solid. Maybe it should be a little more ambitious, but they were balancing being realistic and ambitious. It is an excellent document. It is something that we fully support, DPH fully supports, the mayor supports. And in that document, they define as the cornerstone of our overdose prevention plan as a city, these wellness hubs and getting these up and running. So this is not an area of you know, people can have their different views about safe consumption, all that, but the city, everyone's coming together around smaller sites that provide these kind of services and launching them. And what's missing here is just this creating unnecessarily, by lack of planning, creating a situation where you just have services one day and then they're gone the next day. And that's the heart of this resolution, as Supervisor Peskin has pointed out, is to make sure there is no gap in services. So I urge your support and thank you for the time and discussion.
Thank you, Supervisor Preston. I don't see anyone else on the roster. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on item 29?
On item 29, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai.
No.
Safai, no. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, no. Supervisor Walton.
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Chan. Chan, aye. Supervisor Dorsey. Dorsey, no. Supervisor Mandelman.
No.
Mandelman, no. Supervisor Marr. Marr, aye. Supervisor Melgar.
No.
Melgar, no. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Preston. Preston, aye. There are 6 ayes and 5 noes, with Supervisor Safai, Stephanie, Dorsey, Mandelman, and Melgar in the dissent.
Thank you. By a vote of 6 to 5, this resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk, would you please take us to public comment?
Yes, at this time, the Board of Supervisors welcomes your general public comment. We will first hear from those present here in the chamber, and then we will go to those joining us remotely. If you are calling in to provide your comments remotely, the telephone number and meeting ID are published on the agenda and streaming on your screen. After entering the meeting information, press the pound symbol twice. Once connected, you will hear the meeting discussions, but you will be muted and in listening mode only. You will need to press *3 to add yourself to the speaker's queue. The system prompt will indicate you have raised your hand. Please wait for the system to indicate you have been unmuted, and that will be your cue to begin your comments. During this item 31, you may speak on items 32 through 35, the items for consideration on the for adoption without committee reference calendar, and general matters that are not on today's agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. All other agenda content has been reported out by an appropriate committee where the public comment requirement was fulfilled. The Board of Supervisors also accepts written correspondence by U.S. mail using the address, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors at City Hall, 1 Dr. Carlton B. Goodlett Place, room 244, San Francisco, California 94102, or by sending us an email using the email address bos@sfgov.org. We are also joined today by our partners from the Office of Civic Engagement and Immigrant Affairs and Lando and Associates. I will now ask each interpreter to introduce themselves and provide instruction in language. Today we have Raymond Boras for Filipino, Tan Law for Chinese, and Marty Dickinson for Spanish.
Magandang hapon po. Ito po si Raymond mula sa Office of Civic Engagement, Immigrant Affairs, ang inyong katulong sa wikang Pilipino hanggang kapito ngayong gabi. Para magpahayag, tumawag po 415-655-0001. Gamitin po ang meeting ID sa araw na to, 2498-351-2701. Matapos to, pinutin simulan pa ang 2 ulit para makasama at madinig ang pagpupulong. Kapag nais magsalita, pinutin po ang *3 at hinay po lamang ho dyan maaaring magbigay ng pahayag o marinig ang "You have been unmuted." Maaari po magpahayag sa loob ng 2 minuto. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Do we have Tan logged in?
Yes, I'm here.
Please.
Hi, President Walton, Board of Supervisor, and everyone. My name is Tan Long. I'm a Chinese interpreter for today. Chinese Community Express. Now I'm going to relay the process and the 2-minute speech rule. 大家好，我係今日三藩市民政廳同埋漁民辦事處嘅中文翻譯員。多謝大家今日參與今日嘅會議。今日有分開現場聽眾同埋電話聽眾。請在場嘅現場聽眾排隊等候。遠程嘅電話聽眾請打415-655-0001。之後呢，再輸入會議嘅號碼2498-351-2701，再撳雙交叉2次，加入收聽會議之後，再撳星3，然後排隊等候發言。當聽到提示 You have been unmuted， 即係已經取消咗靜音，就可以開始發表你嘅意見。請記得每一個人只係限制2分鐘發表意見。現場聽眾會首先發言，跟住電話聽眾。多謝。Buenas tardes. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Marty Dickinson y soy empleada de Lando & Associates y seré su intérprete al español hoy hasta las 7 de la noche. Para dar su comentario público, marque el 415-655-0001, seguido por el código de acceso 2498-351-2701, más la tecla del numeral 2 veces. Luego presione el asterisco número 3 y antes de empezar a hablar, espere que el sistema le diga que su línea ha sido activada o en inglés, you have been unmuted. Usted tendrá 2 minutos para dar su comentario. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you to the interpreters. We appreciate you being here with us today. And I invite you to jump in if we have any speakers who require language assistance. As a reminder, since it is election day, all electioneering is prohibited in the chamber. For those joining us in the chamber, we are prioritizing your public comment. If you could please line up against the curtains now, your right, my left, and we ask that you adjust the microphone so that you speak directly into the mic. We are setting the timer for 2 minutes per speaker. Can we have the first individual?
Linda Chapman from Nob Hill. I voted, and I'm rooting for Proposition M and its sponsors. And I'm going to tell you about one little vacant apartment that's been making money for its investor for 3 years, and why. In my condominium building, there was a unit that had had nothing done to it for 40 years because there'd been an old family living in it. It sold early 2020 to an investor who was going to rent it. He gutted the whole apartment, he got it all ready to rent, he got it all modernized, and then he decided he had better ways to make money. One of them was there was a small leak from the HOA's pipe, simple to fix. My plumber told him, you run a pipe up the outside of the building, you connect it, to my plumbing, which wasn't causing a problem, and then you disable the pipe. Well, they had a better idea, all right? They decided sue Linda, right? And first they tried to collect insurance. Well, the insurance company wasn't going to pay for this small trickle that had been going on for years and years and years from an HOA pipe. They said no. Okay, so Linda, however, they decided to sue for $5,000 a month since 2020 and punitive damages, which aren't paid by insurance. So next year, I'm going before a jury to decide whether my assets are going to this man who's been keeping his apartment vacant for 3 years, along with $5,000 a month that he's charging me for lost rent. As you know, in the fall of 2020, all of the apartments on Nob Hill were emptying out. My friend Jean Powell and her building, they were reducing their rents by $1,000 a month or more by negotiation or threatening to move. You know, you couldn't even rent an apartment. But he found a great way to profit from Linda, the retired civil servant. So I'll probably be back here.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Chapman. As I've already indicated, please refrain from electioneering in the chamber.
Oh, there goes my speech. Yes, it is election day. I listened to cousin Jackie Spears' speech, and especially the quote from Robert F. Kennedy. In fact, I was a constituent of Robert F. Kennedy's at one time. I'd like to make a connection between the attack on Mr. Pelosi and the global warming crisis because of the global conference that's on right now. I'd like to make a connection between Archbishop Cordileone declaring war on San Francisco and the attack on Mr. Pelosi. You know, we very often hear the history of world conflicts, and for example, how people in Germany lived a few miles from a death camp, and then they claim they never knew about it. Well, that is certainly the case with the global warming. What we know about fossil fuel is, as we get into this crisis, and by the way, our President Joe mentioned the cascade of crises when he was voting, and then he has done nothing about it. We know as we get deeper and deeper into this crisis, the demand for fossil fuel, cheap, low cost, low technology fossil fuel, is only going to go up and up and up as people try to mitigate the problems, this cascade of crisis. We've seen the COVID crisis. You know what strikes me as really crazy? The Republican Party strongholds are all the states that are most at risk from global warming. Florida is supposed to disappear. So, I mean, it's just in reflection on Election Day and that I thought I should mention this. I don't think our city has done very well with it. Everything we have done, the problem has only gotten worse. I know that Yankee ingenuity, private enterprise, American exceptionalism, manifest destiny, and rugged individual are bedrock to our country, but we've got to start thinking a different way.
Thank you so much for your comments. May we have the next speaker?
Before I get started, I need to know that they're going to turn the overhead projector on.
If you go ahead and place the document.
Is this device on?
Yes.
Okay, hang on a sec. Let me get the papers ready. Hold on. Is that, can they show the whole poster, please? I mean, it's a letter-sized thing. Can they show I guess they can't. Okay.
As I've already stated, there's no electioneering in the chamber.
Sorry?
There's no electioneering, so you would need to take this off.
This is not electioneering. This is not electioneering. I need to know, can they show this entire paper? It's a letter-sized paper.
It's showing right now.
Okay, I'll get started. Hi, Michael Petrellis. I am here to, first of all, remind you of a recent Chronicle poll. You guys have only 12% approval rating. 12%. Okay? You just spent 40 minutes engaging in political masturbation and photo ops. That is one of the reasons why there is such a low approval rating for you all. Let me show on the overhead, please, that in Oakland, they put public comment first. You guys wait until 2 hours into your meeting and you basically put public comment at the end. Another reason why you have only a 12% approval rating. I want to move on and show the Examiner from a few days ago. The headline reads, Supervisors often don't comply with SF's public calendar law. Very few of you are in compliance with what is known as a Prop G calendar. You've not provided them to either myself or to the examiner. Another reason why you are stuck at only a 12% approval rating. You guys need to start doing something differently. And I would suggest starting by respecting the public, putting public comment first, stopping with your political masturbation with these commendations. And finally, I am here to say Raphael Mandelman needs to hold a town hall meeting.
Please do not address a member of the board directly, and you can address the...
Interrupt me. I am entitled to 2 minutes of public comment, and you have just interrupted me.
But you cannot make a direct statement to an individual.
I want my 10 seconds.
You cannot make a specific comment to an individual. You can have your 10 seconds, but you cannot make a specific comment to a specific board member. You can have your 10 seconds. You can have your 10 seconds.
There needs to be a town hall in the Castro to save the Castro Theater, to save the seats. And there needs to be respect by this board toward the public for public comment.
Your 10 minutes is expired. 10 seconds is expired.
12.
Thank you for your comments.
12% approval rating.
All right. Could we have the next speaker, please?
Just talk? Okay. Good afternoon. I'm James Glover. I'm the founder of Make 'em Shine, and we have green jobs at a living wage, and that's what I'm here for. Our focus is on indoor air quality and the existing building stock and savings on water and chemical use for daily maintenance. Our process prevents shoe-borne pathogens from contaminating indoor air quality by using LEED-rated products and procedures, coupled with high-tech solutions for maximum coverage and protection. The simplicity of our process allows us to train and vet our potential colleagues in 7 days. All of our jobs are green and are performed at night between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. These jobs have incentive-based pay raises and built for colleagues, and we want to excel and further their education. We want to hire and try and train from the navigation centers from the populations that have been given permanent housing by the city to disenfranchised people who want to make changes. That's it. I just need to put that out there. We got green jobs for disenfranchised people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. All right, it seems we have no more in-person speakers, so we will now go to our remote system. Mr. Kevin Lamb from the clerk's office is staffing the public comment line and is checking to see if we have any remote attendees. If you have not already done so, please press *3 to enter the queue. The system will indicate you have raised your hand. Please wait until the system indicates you have been unmuted, and that will be your cue to begin your comments. Mr. Lamb, could you please put the first caller forward?
Oh, hi, Supervisors. This is Ellen Grant. I'm a San Francisco resident of District 8 and a co-founder of Mothers Against Drug Deaths. And as you may know, we have been urging you to against keeping the Tenderloin Center open. I respect your comments and your vote. And what I'd ask at this time, excuse me?
I'm pausing the speaker's time. There's no electioneering today. We do realize it's election.
We've already spoken on, we've already had public comment for that item.
Oh, this is an item that has already had its public comment satisfied. If you could please redirect your comments to make them general and not to the item itself, it would be appreciated. Thank you. I'm resuming your time. You have 1 minute and 33 seconds.
It's about what to do next in terms of, managing the Tenderloin Center and how to
As I'm
segue
pausing
that
the
into
speaker's time
sustainable-
again, if I'm pausing the speaker's time again, that item has already had its public comment fulfilled. You may not speak on that item. If you could please redirect your comments to something else.
Thank you so much. I will try to connect another time.
Thank you for your comments. Can we have the next caller, please?
Good afternoon, Supervisors. You may interrupt, the clerk and the president may interrupt me if I'm out of order, but a couple of thoughts. First off, I hope that Supervisors will please build on today's vote and focus on keeping the streets and the transit clean. It has become a significant problem, having drug use and stuff on the transits and in the streets, and it is hurting the reputation of the city of so many great public servants like the Board of Supervisors and its staff. Second, Mr. President, you said earlier today that speakers are not to make a direct statement to a supervisor. Would that include wishing a supervisor happy birthday on Sunday? Okay. Happy birthday, Supervisor Stephanie. And with that, I just hope you guys keep doing the good work you're doing. I'm sorry you were abused earlier today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Can we have the next caller, please?
I wish there were federal regulations requiring densely populated cities to adapt to the rapidly changing needs of constituents and secondhand smoke. Since that's not immediately forthcoming, the onus falls on local policymakers to provide safe air for babies, pregnant women, small children, and the ill while at home. Improving the lives of the many indoor non-smokers caught up in the freedoms of the few indoor chain smokers is an uphill battle rife with legislative landmines and dogmatic tripwires. I fear even those camps that might sympathize with the indoor non-smoker choose policies that serve the unattainable perfect over the attainable good. In lieu of laws that ban indoor chain smoking that might take too much time for those living in currently hazardous homes, why not facilitate interim guidelines that gently shift the culture of smokers versus non-smokers into more diplomatic terrain? The concept of drinking responsibly has garnered approval by government, yet smoking responsibly, never imagined or defined. For every teenager lured by cherry nicotine, there's a pregnant single mother who can't afford to move despite great risk of birth defects or even miscarriage. Her only crime, living next door to an indoor chain smoker who's never been advised, encouraged, or even informed by city government that there could be a way to smoke responsibly. Since non-smoking SF may be a ways away, let's not forget the now, ripe for advancements in the voluntary civility densely populated areas depend on. San Francisco has the opportunity to lead the way with a campaign to share the air and cultivate good neighbors by introducing public service announcements that request a community-based approach to serve the essential needs of the many while respecting the desired freedoms of us all.
Thank you so much for your comments. May we have the next caller, please?
So this is a general comment about maybe how you guys should think about strategy around the drug crisis in our city. Stop providing services that enable addiction and focus on creating disincentives for open drug use and create incentives for recovery. I would posit that that is probably a good framework to move forward. I yield my time.
Thank you so much for your comments. Mr. Lamb, do we have any other callers left in the queue?
Madam Clerk, we have no more callers in the queue.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Thank you so much. Seeing no other speakers, public comment is now closed. Madam Clerk, can you please call for adoption without committee reference agenda items 32 through 35?
Yes, items 32 through 35 were introduced for adoption without reference to committee. A unanimous vote is required for resolutions on first reading today. Alternatively, any supervisor may require a resolution on first reading to go to committee.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, would you like to sever any items? I don't see anyone on the roster. Madam Clerk, please call the roll for adoption without committee reference agenda.
On items 32 through 35, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai.
Aye.
Safai, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Walton.
Aye.
Walton, aye. Supervisor Chan. Chan, aye. Supervisor Dorsey. Dorsey, aye. Supervisor Mandelman. Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Marr. Marr, aye. Supervisor Melgar. Melgar, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Preston. Preston, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Thank you. Without objection, this resolution is adopted and the motions are approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, do we have any imperative agenda items?
No, we do not, Mr. President.
Would you please present the in memoriam?
Yes, today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the following beloved individuals. On behalf of Supervisor Stephanie, for the late Ms. Elaine Marie Sakopoulos.
This brings us to the end of our agenda. Do we have any further business?
That concludes our business for today.
Thank you. Voting is your right. Please exercise it. This meeting is adjourned.